Hey everybody, welcome to the Verdigris Table. My name is Ryan Doyle, and I just picked up the new starter set for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. And now that there's two, I should specify I'm talking about the Dragons of Stormwreck Isle. That's right, dragons with an S, plural, multiple dragons. We'll get into it. The original starter set has a green dragon on the box, the Essentials kit has a white dragon, and now the new starter set has a blue dragon. So my humble suggestion to the community at large is that that's how we should start referring to them. I'm looking forward to getting a black box and a new red box in the future. In this box, we get a set of dice identical to what came in the last starter set, as far as I can tell. Same color scheme, no D100, but that's fine, probably. We are also getting the starter set rulebook, pretty basic, but what you need. A one-sheet advertising, just all things Dungeon and Dragon related. We are getting 5 pre-generated character sheets, which are actually pretty good, if not a little basic. And the star of the show, the adventure itself, the booklet for the Dungeon Master. Now, first impressions, I actually expected more inside of this box based on there being a Dungeon Master's screen and a nice large map and those cards for like magic items and quests and conditions in the Essentials kit. This is the same amount of product as was in the original starter set, the green box, and based on this being a higher price point, at least right now, I thought there would be more. But to be perfectly honest, the DM screen was not the greatest in there, and I never really used the cards, so it wasn't really a problem. And it's by no means like a deal breaker. Wizards of the Coast and their mothership Hasbro are here to make a profit after all, as well as to provide us with fun, and inflation is real, so I can forgive it. I maybe should mention that while recording this, at least in August 2022, this is exclusively available at Target, and it turns out sometimes it's not even available there. Starting in October, this will be available everywhere online outside of the States, and I will come back and drop an affiliate link down below in the description where you will likely be able to pick it up for cheaper while helping me out, or at that point you could go visit your local friendly neighborhood game store and support them, plus maybe make some new friends while you're at it. So yes, I was expecting a little bit more, but what I did not expect was that like first-timers feeling of, standing on the edge of this vast new world of the imagination where anything is possible and magic and monsters are real, and I'm going to explore it and be a hero with my friends. That kid at Christmas time feeling hit hard as I started going through this morning, because there is some good stuff in here, folks, especially as someone's first introduction to the game. I did pore over the rulebook and the character sheets, looking for anything new and different, expecting to find the first little hints and signs of 5.5 or 6th edition within this box. And unless I missed something, skimming everything in here, it lines up with the player's handbook. But I will say they have done an excellent job in the formatting. I did a side-by-side of the starter set rulebooks, the 2014 one and the 2022 one, and it is evident that they have definitely gone through and made things a little more clear and readable with some smart formatting decisions. I also found it notable that they placed a little bit more emphasis on the social and exploration sides of the game this time, where in the old one that was just kind of folded into the ability checks section. The adventure does a good job of that as well, shining a spotlight on the other pillars of play and giving them their due rather than just letting combat completely steal the show. All in all, the rules in here are everything you need and nothing you don't, though if you're going to move beyond the adventure in this box, or your group wants to create their own characters, you'll need to at least pick up the basic rules, which are available for free online, link in the description, or a copy of at least the player's handbook. Actually, links to both of those down below, because this box doesn't have the rules for character creation. It has 5 pre-made character sheets. Again, I was trying to find some tea leaves to read about upcoming changes to the new edition, but these seem to be right in line with the PHP as well. We're getting a Lightfoot Halfling Rogue, a Human Paladin, Wood Elf Fighter, Hill Dwarf Cleric, and a High Elf Wizard. Pretty standard offerings, and not the characters from the cartoon that some people were hoping for, but they are all over the art in here. I will also say again, 8 years later, the designers have taken a fresh eye to the character sheet and with a couple simple format changes made things a little bit easier and clearer, especially for beginners, but even experienced players, frankly. For example, instead of like attack bonus +5, it says roll 1d20 +5 to see if you hit. And it has the numbers in a bold typeface so they stand out when you're looking for it. And it's very easy to forget how complicated a character sheet looks the first time you pick one up. So anything that's adding simplicity and usability is a big plus for me, bringing new players into the game. There's also no traits, ideals, bonds, flaws section here, but it does feel like they do a pretty solid job sketching out the character story in the background section, and that leads pretty seamlessly into providing some individual plot hooks, a purpose for coming to Stormwreck Isle. If you do make your own characters, consider incorporating these plot hooks or replacing them so your characters have a reason to be on this island. Now, whether this is your first time sitting down to play Dungeons & Dragons or you are a seasoned veteran, the real star of the show here is definitely the adventure module that is inside the box. Dragons of Stormwreck Isle, or DOSI, right? As I'm sure everyone will surely be calling it online soon, is an adventure that will take characters from 1st to 3rd level. Now, in comparison, the 2014 green box provided enough content to take characters from level 1 to level 5, and the 2019 Essentials kit, the white box, was enough to hit 6th level. So this is obviously less and doesn't make a great first impression. And while I'm not saying that I like this adventure better than Dragon of Icefire Peak or Lost Mine of Phandelver, which holds a very special place in my heart, honestly, I do have to say I was prepared to be disappointed with the low level range, and I was pleasantly surprised. They have done a lot of things really well in this adventure, and as a new player's first introduction to the game, or a new dungeon master's first time running it, I think it sets some really excellent expectations and precedents. If you are planning to be a player in this adventure, now is a good time to stop watching, as we are about to enter Dungeon Masters only territory. Spoilers are coming, and D&D is not the kind of game where a walkthrough is going to help you have a better experience, and it can actually hurt. And it can hurt the experience of the other people sitting around the table. It can reduce the fun. So think about running this game so you can watch the rest of this and enter the inner sanctum, the secret circle of those of us who run behind the screen. Okay, so the first thing this adventure gets right is it puts dragons front and center. In the OG starter set, the green dragon on the front of the box was off to the side in a side quest that definitely had its issues. They corrected, right, and put the white dragon as the main boss in the Essentials kit, but by the time the players reached him, it could prove a little anticlimactic. Now on Stormwreck Isle, it's all dragons all of the time. The players are going to interact with 3 dragons and the spirits, the legacy of at least 5 more, while becoming involved in that classic D&D conflict of chromatic versus metallic, which is good versus evil in D&D Forgotten Realms canon. The story goes an ancient red dragon was defeated by an alliance of metallic dragons and cast down through the ocean floor, which unleashed the volcanic activity that caused this island to rise from the sea and left a lasting legacy of magic here. Other dragons have come over the years to harness that power, and many have lost their lives warring over it. The latest battle was a century ago when a blue dragon tried to claim that destructive magic, and a bronze dragon named Runara tried to stop him, killing him when he couldn't or wouldn't listen to reason. Now, Runara has taken human form and established Dragon's Rest, a small cloister where peace and enlightenment are sought by those who may have seen too much violence in their lives. We get some NPCs to interact with there, including a whole troop of kobolds and a couple mysterious figures with dark secrets in their past that do interact with some of our players' backstories. There are simplified, sleeping quarters, very monastic, and the one belonging to the kobold tinkerer doubles as a store where players can purchase basic goods. We get a cool freight elevator to interact with, which the residents use to bring goods up from the water to their homes on the cliff, and the characters will surely mess around with and maybe even find a use for it at some point. We get a dining hall and a little note that says the NPC whose dark secret is that they were were the poison maker for a notorious thieves guild, is actually the best cook on the island. I really like that little detail. There is a library where Runara spends much of her time, and PCs can do some research, and dungeon masters can drop some lore bombs. And to complete the picture, we get an open-air temple with a statue of Bahamut, the Platinum Dragon. There are 2 quests leading out of this little hub that will provide our characters with the knowledge and experience needed to embark on that 3rd and final quest here. The module does a pretty great job of being open-ended and allowing the players to forge their own path, deciding between the sea caves to help their reformed poisoner craft healing potions, or to investigate a shipwreck that seems to be causing a problem with undead on the island. When I was reading the summary in the first few pages, especially after the changes to the rules layout, it seemed like they were really creating a social and exploration forward eventual module here, but then zombies attack the second we get off the boat. There is very good DM advice on how to emphasize what makes zombies special in combat, and I will say it is pretty clever to have an adult dragon waiting just off screen to swoop in and rescue your level 1 PCs in the event that they get themselves killed. But there is actually another version of that combat encounter that comes at the end of this section if the players didn't engage the first time. And if I were running this, I would just use that one because I like the idea of not immediately jumping right into combat. And it is the more interesting version of this fight either way. The zombies are attacking a pair of NPCs in that one, a wacky kobold and Tarak, the poisoner, gardener, cook, and arguably the most important NPC here after Runara. In that version, the player's intervention has bigger stakes and drives the story. It is an inciting incident that actually kicks off both of the quests before us and presents the players with important decisions to make. To give them even more choices and to further open up the open world exploration element, this little booklet gives us 3 well-developed random overland travel encounters instead of just like a roll table of quantity monsters. Now, I'm a huge fan of random encounters done right. I've got a whole playlist and some stuff on the DM's Guild you can grab if you're interested, but to make this aspect even better, each encounter is tied to the path the players choose to travel to their destination. It's a small island with only 3 adventure locations in the hub, and they can borrow a little rowboat and go around, they can walk along the coast, or they can hike through the interior. There's also a tide table, and at high tide, the lowest path around the coast is underwater, as is some parts of the probably first adventure location, and that is really clever. It makes the world feel more real, and it gives the players more to interact with and explore. It may sound dumb, but these elements might be my favorite parts of this whole thing. Tarak asks the party to head to Seagrow Cave, home to the Myconids, who have been trading with him to obtain ingredients to make healing potions, and that's a great incentive to get characters moving. Something has gone wrong in the cave, and the Myconids have placed a spore servant giant octopus out front to attack anyone who draws near. And depending on the tide and the player strategy, this second combat, possibly of their entire D&D careers, might involve underwater elements. Then they'll get attacked by violet fungi and sturges. And welcome to D&D, kids. It's freaking weird sometimes. I really like the detail that the Myconids don't really care about the sturges living in their cave because they don't have blood and so are left alone. That's smart. The DM is also getting notes on how to scale this up. If the players went to the shipwreck first and are now level 2 when they are facing these challenges, and that's a small thing that's easily undervalued by experienced dungeon masters, but for a newbie, that is very helpful. Another really cool thing here is that the characters are eventually going to come into contact with rapport spores and start communicating with these bizarre fungus folk, which is great by itself. But the DM gets a note encouraging the players to consider how the experience of sharing an empathic bond, thanks to these magic mushrooms, might bring their characters closer together, easing any suspicions they may have had and building trust within the party. Who wrote that? Good job. Eventually, as we follow these adorable sprouts to the chamber with the adults, assuming we're on speaking terms and the PCs aren't just killing everybody, we learn that something smells rotten in Denmark and fumes from the crystal caves have poisoned the leader here, placing them in a coma. noxious volcanic gases rising from this breach to presumably the elemental plane of fire beneath the island used to vent out of these caverns, but now are blocked in by this glowing orange crystal. Fume drakes, which are elemental, draconic, ghosty spirits, a legacy of the ancient red dragon's defeat, and a new monster in this adventure, stand in the way of the party and the problematic crystal, which turns out to be the egg of a fire snake who is not excited about being hatched by our adventurers and attacks. The other preliminary adventure involves a shipwreck that's spewing out zombies. It turns out it's just the latest in a series of shipwrecks, as a harpy has made her home in the crow's nest of the Compass Rose, a ship that crashed here a little while ago amid the bones of a gold dragon. The characters will fight the harpy and some zombies and a ghoul in the difficult terrain of the flooded lower decks of a ship in the process of uncovering the little charm of Orcus that is causing all of this undead misery. We get a nice little, dose of pathos in the story of a desperate romantic reaching out to the demon prince to be reunited with their lost love. Plus, there's a funny jump scare where the skeleton turns out to not be animated, but just, occupied by some crabs. It's short and sweet and scalable for level 1 or level 2 again. And once both of these objectives have been completed, Runara reveals her true form and respects our newly minted adventurers and sends them into the final chapter of this adventure. A blue dragon wormling named Sparkrender, actually a descendant of the dragon that Runara defeated, came to this island a few months ago and claimed the Clifftop Observatory off of its southern tip. Sparkrender is preparing to harness all the magical power that suffuses this island. Now, a bronze dragon wormling named Adron went to confront Sparkrender and stop it against Runara's advice and her advocacy for peaceful resolution in general, and was defeated and imprisoned. The blue dragon wormling plans to sacrifice Adron in a ritual to bind all of the fallen dragon's powers to his will. Once again, this small adventure is packing in a lot of player choices. We can arrive by boat, or we can go along the coast, or we can go over land, and they can visit the locations here in pretty much any order. In the likely first encounter here, they find winged kobolds battling some sturges and can choose to fight with them or against them, which will certainly have an impact on what happens next. And when we come to Sparkrender, he is actually asleep, so the party can try to get the drop on him and gain a surprise round, or they can attempt to sneak past him and free Adron if they can solve this pretty decent puzzle, and that sets up a dragon fight. What I really like here is that we also get the consequences if the characters don't stop Sparkrender that first time. Say they do poorly in the fight and run away, or he manages to get away and they don't free Adron because they choose not to or don't realize they can. And after a long rest, or maybe a conversation with Runara, they return here to find the ritual underway under the light of the King Killer Comet, which is a nice little detail as well. There are these effigies of the fallen dragons here. They're glowing with energy and releasing different magical effects each round based on a D10 roll table. Plus, you've got Adron lying there chained up, and he can be freed in the fight, but it is challenging, but helpful. The characters can also try to disrupt the ritual instead of or while battling the blue dragon himself, and that's all super cool. There is a little advice on how to proceed after this adventure has ended, suggesting the DM maybe craft a dungeon for the red dragon's tomb beneath the island, who may actually still be alive down there. I'll add that Stormwreck Isle is just a few miles off the Sword Coast, and it seems like it's a little bit south of Neverwinter, so I could easily see connecting this to one of the many other published adventures in the area. Ghosts of Saltmarsh feels like a real great candidate here, since it's also nautically themed, and so modular. I'm sure it wouldn't take much imagination to launch a Rise of Tiamat campaign from here as well, or maybe hop on a boat heading north for Rime of the Frost Maiden, or you get caught in some spooky fog and you're doing Curse of Strahd, or you insert some giants here and go for Storm King's Thunder. There's also a chance there's more to come for this adventure too, the way there were follow-up adventures for the Dragon of Icespire Peak. I am really surprised that there isn't a stronger D&D Beyond tie-in in here. But with this Target exclusivity rollout, maybe we'll see something more releasing in October when things open up. Otherwise, from the bang for your buck aspect and simple Dungeon Master value, I still think I would definitely recommend the old starter set with Lost Mine of Phandelver over this one. There's a lot in here to like, but barring some additional information I don't have today, if you're only getting one, I say get the green box. Definitely the way to go. I am going to put an affiliate link down in the description for that guy. It is literally half the price right now, and I've seen it go even lower. And a digital version is also available for free on D&D Beyond while I'm recording this. And while there's definitely something about having like the physical object in hand, free is definitely hard to beat. If you want to see me do a thorough Dungeon Master walkthrough of that Lost Mine of Phandelver adventure, check this out. And if you want another alternative, I'm a big fan of the Sunless Citadel as well, which is also level 1 to 3, and that was the starter adventure for 3rd edition, has been reworked for 5e, and I just finished a series on that one here. Whatever you play, get out there, have fun, be kind to yourself, be kind to each other, and I hope I see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye.